Greetings, my scattered brothers and sisters in the Lord. I trust you know the Lord is with you wherever you find yourself scattered today, and that you know that His presence with you is more than enough for whatever we might face today. We are working with 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 7 today. It reads like this: "The end of all things is at hand. Therefore be self-controlled and sober-minded for the sake of your prayers." We want to break this down into kind of two parts. First of all, the end of all things is at hand, or the end of all things is near. So from one perspective, Peter is operating with this sense of urgency that Christ will return soon. And I'm sure Peter did not think soon would be 2,100 years later or thereabouts. And so, what is Peter getting at? Well, on the one hand, he thinks soon, maybe in his lifetime, maybe not, but soon. But on the other hand, in terms of biblical history or salvation history, we're in the stage of history to where Christ's coming is at hand. He was incarnated, He ministered amongst us, He was crucified, He was buried and dead, raised from the dead. Now He's at the right hand of the Father. And so His return, it really is kind of what's next. And so at hand or near. And that moves Peter to live with a sense of urgency. And that should move us to live with a sense of urgency. Not necessarily that we think Christ is coming next week, but that we recognize where we're at in salvation history. And kind of the next big thing is Christ's return. And so we have this sense of urgency to live faithful and true. And then, truly, these are the only days that we have. And so whether Christ comes in our lifetime or whether it's several generations or hundreds, even a couple thousand years from now, these are the only days that we have. And so how we live matters. And so we need to live with a sense of urgency. The second part of this is living with this sense of urgency of being prepared for Christ's return, that we need to be of sound mind, that we need to be of sober judgment, so that we can pray. I don't know about you, but oftentimes when I'm praying, it's so that I can be of sound mind, so that I can make wise decisions, so that I can exercise self-control. But Peter kind of flips it, and he says to be self-controlled, be sober-minded, be of sound, wise judgment, so that we can pray. And so I think what he's getting at is if we're not living with self-control, if we're not staying kind of sober-minded, then we're going to have a difficult time drawing near to God. We're going to have a difficult time communicating with God, praying with God. It's like our living will become a barrier to our communion. And so given the urgency of the times, given that these are the only times that we have, live in such a way, make decisions in such a way, so that we can actually live in communion with God, and so that we can pray. And so the purpose of prayer is not simply getting answers. The purpose of prayer is communion, a close relationship with the Lord. And if we're making bad decisions because we're not sober-minded, if we are, kind of messing up, then it's going to be difficult to pray, difficult to commune with God. And so in the midst of all the pressure and resistance that Peter's readers are facing, they need to make sure that they don't just kind of lose it and retaliate against that pressure, but that they actually maintain self-control and exercise sound judgment so that their living doesn't get in the way of their communion with God. Don't know where you find yourself scattered today. Don't know what pressures might be against you. But this is my prayer for you, my prayer for us, that God, by His grace, by the power of the Spirit at work in our lives, would indeed empower us to be of sober mind, to exercise sound judgment, to make good decisions, so that our prayers are not hindered, but we're able to live in close communion with the Father and the Son through the Spirit. God bless. Have a great day. Make good decisions so that those decisions actually draw you nearer to God instead of get in the way of your communion with God. God bless.